Coaching Roundtable. Today is the 19th session, and the topic for today is how to prepare for Scrum Master or Agile Coach interview. And before we start with the session, I would like to just inform you all, as I see there are many new people who have joined the call today. So this recording is going to be put on our YouTube channel. Please do consider to subscribe to our channel so that you get the notification whenever we do a new video. And also we have seen in our analytics that the viewers, lot of our viewers or the percentage of the viewership is of non-subscribers. So I would request everyone to please subscribe to our channel. And I know this is just a ugly plugin over here, but I just wanted to put it out so that we get encouragement with your support. All right, on that note, the reason why we picked up this topic is that it's like, I mean, many people have reached out to me and Vivek to give them guidance on interview preparation, and many people have asked us that what are the potential interview questions for a Scrum Master, and how do we give interview, or I mean what all things we have to prepare for, and so on and so forth. And both of us being in our interview panel in our respective organizations as well, so we tried to put something together, and we thought that we may come up with some preparation. We can help you guys prepare. So a disclaimer over here is, if you are looking out for a typical interview question and answers, you would be really disappointed. We are not doing a typical question and answer session. There is a reason why we are not doing that. We would see that while we start our presentation or maybe our topic. Okay, on that note, I'm just sharing my screen, and I'll try to give whatever I thought that would help you guys in the interview preparation. Let me know if you are able to see my screen, and I'm also turning my video off.
Yes. we can see.
Thank you for the confirmation. Let me just. All right. So the first and foremost thing that I would like to just put out over here is, Scrum Master or Agile Coach interview is very subjective. So this is the reason why we do not promote, or we do not give out a typical interview question or answers, because we don't think that there is any particular template of interviews, like you just Google some questions and you get answers, and then you give out those answers in the interview. It is very subjective. It depends upon, I mean, person to person, what they want to ask, or what they want to interpret from this interview. Reason being, Scrum Master interview or an Agile Coach interview, at least in my experience, what I have seen is the interviewers ask question or try to find out solutions to the problem that he or she is facing in their own project, or in their organization. So whatever questions that the interviewers ask is something that is related or pertaining to his or her own world. So basically, they are trying to find out solutions to their problems, and they are trying to give you those questions, and expecting you to give out some solutions. So definitely it's a learning experience to both interviewer and interviewee. It's not just that only a interviewee learns in an interview. It's a learning experience for both the parties. So that is the reason why we are not going to give out any interview questions or answers. So we are just going to help you prepare to deal with such questions, or maybe deal with this interview preparation. All right. So what I feel is, Scrum Master or Agile Coach interview is divided into three parts. Basically, an interviewer is going to check on three things. First is real-time scenarios. This is like interviewer's favorite topic, I must say. He or she will try to check your experience as a Scrum Master or an Agile Coach. Nowadays, we know that there is this trend that people just do this certification for 2 days and then they come up with put some experience in the resume or in their profile, show some experience, and then they start giving interviews. But doing so, you will get caught if you have not played earlier as a Scrum Master. You will get caught in real-time scenarios because you will never know what or how to deal with the scenarios that the interviewer might ask you. So one category is that uh, they would ask you on real-time scenarios. Second would be I mean the basic the agile concepts or Scrum, whichever framework that the position is for. So if it's for a Scrum Master, it could vary from Scrum to Safe to Less and so on, or basic agile expertise. So, and third one is the cultural fit. So when we talk about cultural fit, they would try to see or judge you uh, to to see how you fit within that project or within that organization. They would try to ask you some things related to maybe interpersonal skills, or maybe they'll see what kind of person you are. They'll ask you what are your successes and failures as a Scrum Master or an Agile Coach. Maybe they'll ask you how did you resolve conflict, how did you deal with some tough people, just to see your perspective and your approach to see whether you fit into the culture of that project or program or that organization. So basically, the Scrum Master interview is divided into three parts. So this is what my interpretation is. Next is understand and learn Agile Manifesto. Why am I putting this out as a thing? I mean, I know many would say that, I mean, why do we need to understand Agile Manifesto? So that is what was taught to us when we did certification back in the day. And why do we need to know and all those things, right? So just to tell you, when you start as a Scrum Master or an Agile Coach, so in your journey, it is very important to understand what are the rules of the game. Okay, so you may say that how is it related, right? So what happens is your entire agility or agile is based on this Agile Manifesto. How you uh, apply this Agile Manifesto, that is values and principles. So whichever framework that you use of agile, this Agile Manifesto will hold true to all the frameworks. At least I feel so, that should hold true to all the agile delivery frameworks. So it is very imperative and very important for any Scrum Master or an Agile Coach, at least in the beginning, at a beginner level, to understand and learn what is Agile Manifesto. What does Agile Manifesto talk about? Though it may sound very cliched thing, but then it is very important that we understand Agile Manifesto. Same goes for Scrum Guide as well. So why is it very important to understand Scrum Guide? So as I mentioned, if you are starting off as a Scrum Master or an Agile Coach, you should understand what does the guideline talk about. It's like, just an example, if you're going to play a game of a cricket, and if you do not know what the rules are, then definitely you will not play your best, right? So you have to understand what the rules are. So whether you follow the rules, whether you break the rules, or whether you change the rules is the another story. And when I say this also depends upon your project, your team dynamics, and within the boundaries of the project. And Scrum Guide, when I talk about, doesn't cover how part of it. It tells you what and why. It will not tell you how, because if it is incomplete with an intention. Because whatever why part, or sorry, whatever how part if they give, that should be universally applicable to everyone, and which is not possible because not everyone is same, or not every team is same, right? So it doesn't go this way. I mean, one size fit all kind of a solution. So that is the reason why Scrum Guide is incomplete with an intention. So to at least start off with, you should understand what the guidelines talk about, what the Scrum Guide talks about. You should know what is there inside the Scrum Guide. So as I mentioned, whether you want to change it, mold it, or rewrite it is all depends upon an individual, but at least you should know all these things. So if you typically attend an interview, I mean, when I say an interview, I mean the role of a Scrum Master or an Agile coach is interpreted differently within the context of the organization. Some may say that they need a project manager responsibilities also. Some may say, no, no, I want a pure Scrum Master who is not doing any of other responsibilities other than what is mentioned in the Scrum Guide. So in any which case, it is very important for you to see or understand what is right and what is wrong, and understand whether you should go in which direction. So it really depends upon you how to take it, because I have seen many people that they say that I know this is not the responsibility or accountability of a Scrum Master, but we are asked to do so. So in that case, what do we do? So it really depends upon you where in which path you have to go, whether you want to educate your organization in what is right, or whether you want to just succumb to whatever they say and proceed. So it is really up to an individual. So a typical a pure Scrum Master interview, or wherein our interviewer is seeking for a pure Scrum Master, which is as per the Scrum Guide, or maybe as per the what the Scrum framework talks about, will look for the knowledge in terms of what is mentioned in the Scrum Guide. For an example, they'll see the moment now, if you see that there are a lot of changes that have happened in Scrum Guide 2020. For an example, ceremonies got replaced with events. So there are few interviewers who will typically look for these terminologies. I mean, when you say ceremonies instead of events, that would be a turn off for them. So you never know what or which thing will trigger an interviewer. So it is very important for you to understand what is there in the Scrum Guide, what is there in the Agile Manifesto, and then uh, decide or prepare yourself accordingly for this interview. So since I was talking about learning and changing the rules and all of that, so you all must have at least heard about it. What is Shu-Ha-Ri, right? So what does that Shu-Ha-Ri talks about? So it's like learn the rules, bend the rules, and break the rules. Which means first you understand what the rules of the games are. Then you try to, once you learn it, you try to bend those rules and then break the rules. Meaning first you see what it is. So it's like if you have to uh, write a sentences, right? So first you need to know what alphabets do you have and how do you write those alphabets. Then learn 2-letter words, 3-letter words, and then try to change the spellings, right? So first understand what the rules of the game are, and then maybe you may want to bend the rules according to your team dynamics or project dynamics, and then you may want to break the rules later on. So by inspect and adapt that we talk about, right? So this is what it is. So if I have to just explain this in some simple example, now this is a typical Indian name and a very common name called as Ria. Okay, so now if you want to write Ria in different ways, right? So all these three spellings will spell it as Ria. But to understand what is or how you can write Ria differently, you should first understand how do you spell Ria at the first place. So you might have taught during childhood that spelling of Ria is R-I-Y. Later on, maybe the spelling you would have realized that it can be written as R-E-E-Y as well. Now, latest what you learn is that R-H-E-A is also a spelling of Ria. So first you understand how do you spell Ria, and then you change according to your liking or understanding. So first, this is what I meant when we say that first learn the rule, then bend the rule, and then break the rules. So for that purpose, it is very important to understand what is Agile Manifesto, what does Agile Manifesto talks about, what is Scrum Guide, what do you have in Scrum Guide, and then during your implementation, you may want to see, okay, this is what Scrum Guide talks about. So let me try to align as close as possible, or I know this is what it is, but let me try to change some things to fit into my project dynamics. For an example, many people have seen this. I mean, the stipulated time given for sprint planning is so and so for say this number of, I mean, the sprint size of maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, right? So in that case, do you really consider or you do you really consume that stipulated amount of time for your entire sprint planning? For an example, if it says 8 hours, just an example, so do you really do a complete sprint planning a complete day? No, right? So what it says is it's, I mean, maximum of 8 hours, right? So it is really up to you how much time you consume. That really depends upon your team and the questions or understanding and your conversation collaboration between the team members and product owners and yourself, right? So though they say it should be 8 hours, not necessary you will consume entire 8 hours just because it is said in the Scrum Guide. So that is what it means. I mean, first you understand what does it say, and then you may want to really see whether you have to stick to what it says or whether you want to change the ways. So, and why am I saying all those things? As I mentioned, an interviewer, a typical interviewer would be interested to know your knowledge on these things, Agile Manifesto and Scrum Guide. They will try to ask questions uh, in the form of, maybe it could be any questions to check whether it is a framework level or a scenario based question, but he or she will try to ask you from the Scrum Guide perspective or an Agile Manifesto perspective, how will you relate those things and give out the answers. Next point is try to relate each question, especially scenario based questions, to Agile values, principles, Scrum values, empirical process, and accordingly answer the question. What do you mean by this? So as I mentioned, whenever you have been asked a scenario based question, so it could be a hypothetical question also, or it could be as I mentioned, the interviewer might be trying to find a solution to his or her own problem, right? So at least what this is what worked for me, and I have done that. Whenever a scenario based question was asked, I was just trying to relate it to what does agile value or principle talk about. Can I find something from agile value or principle? Can I derive something from Scrum value, or can I derive something from empirical process? And then I answer accordingly. Just an example, I know that many of you would have attended the interview and you would have faced this question. I mean, what will you do if there are changing requirements in the middle of the sprint or throughout the sprint? How will you deal with this? So what I try to do was, I mean, we know something related to welcoming change in requirements throughout the sprint. So this is one of the principles of Agile, and that is what is present in Agile Manifesto, which means that we should not turn down the request, right? We should welcome it, and there is a difference between welcome and accepting the change, right? So just try to relate that to one of the principles which I just spoke about, and see, okay, it tells us that we should welcome the changes, but then whether you are accepting it immediately or whether you are accepting it later on is something is really up to you. That is based on your discussion with your product owner or whatever you guys agree on as a team. So this is just an example that I have given. So this way you can relate your questions to the Agile Manifesto, that is values, principles, Scrum values, empirical process, and then just try to find out answer with this. And to do that, you obviously have to know what all these things are about, right? At the first place. So that is the reason why I am saying that at least you should know what is there in the game, and then you can maybe refer to each one of them. And this approach could be right, could or may be right or may not be right, but this worked for me. So I would like to give few of the tips that at least I have observed being interviewee and interviewer both. So I thought I would like to give out some tips. So first, what I would like to tell you is summarize your introduction to keep it crisp and short. I mean, this I have faced as an interviewer. Whenever we try to ask questions as an interviewer to explain them that, okay, tell me about yourself, or maybe can you walk me through your profile, your work experience. People just do not understand how to summarize and where to start and where to stop. Trust me, I was conducting an interview very recently, as recent as I guess 2 days back or so. I asked this question to one of the interviewee, and the person went on for 9 minutes. Can you imagine? So even if it's for 45 minutes of an interview or a half an hour interview or maybe 1 hour of an interview, if you are going to go on and on for 9 minutes, and even, I mean, not everyone would interrupt you and say that, boss, I understood. It's okay. Or maybe a person will let you speak, but that doesn't mean that you have to go on and on and on and give entire journey of your life, a professional life, and put it forward. So you have to really understand how to do that introduction, how to summarize it. So prepare for your introduction. So if you feel that you want to give out, so if even if you had like 20 years of an experience, right, you try to summarize it in few sentences, okay, or maybe a small small paragraph, or maybe few bullet points. You may want to practice it and see how long it takes, because at least 9 minutes of an introduction is a complete turn off, at least for me as an interviewer. So try to understand that you have only this much time to prove your worth or sell your skills, or sell yourself, right? So use that time wisely. So you have to be really articulate. You have to be really articulative in the way you format your sentences, and or maybe come up with a crisp introduction. It should not be lengthy enough that your interviewer will go on mute and he or she will do whatever they want to do and come back, especially if it is a virtual round. So try to summarize your introduction. Next is, when unsure, validate your understanding of question with the interviewer. So what does this mean? So as I mentioned, this Scrum Master or Agile Coach interview is very subjective. So the question may not be very straightforward or simple, or maybe just to the point, right? I mean, it's not like what is your name and you just answer my name is Ramya. It would not be that case. So it would be like scenario based, as I mentioned. They'll try to give some hypothetical situation, or maybe they try to ask you something which the interviewer is also thinking in the runtime and asking you questions. So they may go I mean, they may use sentences to explain that scenario or whatever. So if you are not sure that what the question is, I would suggest that you should ask that question. You just validate your understanding on the question. Just repeat what you understood, so that you also validate your understanding, plus you will be sure that, okay, I'm not going to give out the wrong answer. Because what happens is, this also triggers a lot of interviewers, that if you do not understand the question and you just try to catch the train and start giving out the answer without understanding it, then the person will think the person is not even caring to ask back whether understanding is right or not, and just is going on giving it whatever templatized answer he or she has, or maybe you have, right? So that happens. So it is very good. I mean, you have to cultivate this habit, if you don't have one, to validate your understanding, and then ask the interviewer, am I correct, is my understanding right? If I have understood it correct, this is what it means. So it is, I mean, it has to be conversational. When we say interview, it is not necessary that it has to be Q&A, or someone is just going to interrogate you and you are just sitting there as a victim or answering as a victim. No, it is in your hands how you want to lead that conversation. If you are very much intimidated with the interviewer, and if you are like, just going to give out the answer to whatever asked, then obviously interviewer will take that conversation in that direction. So if you want to turn the tables around, it is up to you. If you want to take it as a conversational thing, you maybe have a conversation. So when you try to validate your understanding, that becomes more of a conversation rather than interrogation. So it is really in your hands how you want to give that direction to your interview. So do not answer, do not know the answer, give it a skip. This I cannot emphasize enough. If you do not know something, do not just drag it just to say something or give out the answer. It is okay if you do not know the answer. It's not necessary that you should know all the answers. No one knows all the answers, and no one will get all right answers. It is okay if you do not know, you can give it a skip, or maybe you can say, I want to pass this question, or I do not know the answer. It's really absolutely fine to say that. Not necessary that you should know all the answers and all the answers will be right. And I mean, even interviewers understand it. At least in my case, I do not come with this notion that the interviewee will answer all the questions or all the answers would be right. So it's really depends upon, there are a lot of factors that interviewers judge on. Obviously the subject matter. Second would be your uh, hunger, passion, and your attitude, and also whether you are keen in learning or not. So these are also very important, whether you are interested or what is, especially your attitude matters a lot. So if you try to make up some story, even if you do not know the answer, if you try to make up some story, and if you try to give out some random answer, it might trigger the interviewer. It's better to say that I do not know and skip it, rather than giving out any stories or cooking up stories. Next is, try to think at a deeper level by understanding the rationale behind the question. This is especially for Scrum Master and Agile Coach interview. This is very, very important. What happens is, if you are if you are from that lot who has just done the certification, 2-day certification, and you have put up some experience in your resume and you are attending the interview, you would be playing just at a surface level. I have interviewed many people and have really understood that the person is not having the experience, past experience working as a Scrum Master or an Agile coach, and the person is really faking the experience. How do you know that? Whenever you go for an Agile coach interview or a Scrum Master interview, the interviewer is trying to understand your logic behind doing certain things. For an example, if someone is saying that what is the reason for doing a daily scrum, right? Daily scrum call. What is the rationale behind doing for doing the daily scrum call? That means he's trying to understand what is the logic. If you're going to give him answer because you want to know the status of the meeting or status of the team members, and just to make some report or just to see the progress, you would be wrong. He's trying to understand what are you why you do it. He's trying to understand, or the interviewer is trying to understand. Daily he's expecting, maybe he might be expecting an answer saying that daily scrum call is an opportunity to do a short term plan, or maybe to see what is the progress towards the sprint goal, and inspect and adapt based on that short term plan. So this could be the one of the answers. So if you're just trying to say that, okay, daily stand up or daily scrum call is a status meeting, then definitely the person will understand that this person is not experienced. He has not played a scrum master or an agile coach earlier. Similarly, whichever question the interviewer is going to ask you for these roles or accountabilities, what happens is the person is trying to understand the reasoning behind doing certain thing. So if someone asks you about retro, and if you tell we do retro uh, uh, to understand what went well, what did not go well, and what are the improvements. No, he's trying to he's expecting an answer to inspect and adapt. So these are the things, and when we say inspect and adapt, those are two pillars of empirical process. So this way you have to think at a deeper level when you answer this, and not necessary that you will have that skill. You have to develop that skill. And how would you develop that skill? You will develop the skill only by attending interviews, and only with experience, and only by working as a scrum master or an agile coach. If you are just going to go for an interview by faking some experience after doing a certification, you will definitely not get to think at a deeper level, because you don't know the subject matter at all. That is the reason why if you are failing in most of the interviews, this could be one of the reasons, because you're not thinking at a deeper level. Not necessary that you have all the answers, you have thought at a deeper level and you have all the answers. No, you may think at the runtime also. I do a lot of runtime thinking. Whenever interviewer asks me, while I give out the answer, I also simultaneously try to find some deeper answer to it. What is the deeper reason for doing so and so thing? So this I have developed it. And if you have watched our guest speaker session that we did in the last month, we had Vamsi Krishna Kakkireni as our guest speaker. I was attending interview with him. He was my interviewer, and he tried to ask questions, and he made me think, go at a deeper level and give out the answers. And trust me, it was very frustrating to start with. I did not understand what this person is trying to ask or trying to get out of me. I was very agitated, but half the way through the interview, I understood, okay, this is what this person is trying to get out of me. And that is the point after which I thought to myself, okay, this is the way to go forward. This is the way I have to think towards. He is the person who got me thinking at a deeper level. So it can, I mean, that can trigger you at any point, and anyone can trigger you. So you have to really keep your mind, eyes and ears open to welcome such conversations. And obviously, if you ask me the result of that interview, I did clear that interview, but unfortunately, I did not join that organization because I want at that point of time my aspirations were something else, and I had to choose some other organization. But yes, I mean, the feedback that I got from it was really amazing, and more of that offer or an opportunity, it got me, I mean, it triggered me as a scrum master or an agile coach, that this is the way to think when we work as a scrum master or an agile coach. This is the way we have to go about, and this should be our approach in the way we look at things. So try to go at a deeper level. If you play at a surface level, even if you give out the answers and you may think, okay, I gave all the answers, I don't know what this person is looking for, and you will get rejected and you will not even realize what went wrong. So this is one of the reasons why most of the interviewees fail in the interview. Yeah, this is another example, another classic example. This is something I faced just today. So I was interviewing one candidate, and while I was interviewing, I do in his introduction itself, he started using so many terminologies. In the introduction, he told me about safe, he told me about lean agile, safe, he told me Kanban. He gave out so many terminologies, or he gave out so many things. So these are like fodder for the interviewer. What happens is, when not every interviewer will come prepared with his or her questions, so many of them will go with the flow. Let's see what we get from the resume or the profile. Let's see what we will get from the interviewee. So if you are throwing a lot of terminologies, you are giving fodder to the interviewer to ask you questions around those. So many interviewers will ask you questions whatever terminologies you throw it, or you write in your resume. So beware of what you write in your resume and what you speak in the interview. So do not use any terminology which you are not aware of. For an example, today the interviewee must have used lean agile and safe at least 5 times in at least 1 minute or 1 minute or 2 minutes of a conversation. Then I asked him, obviously for me it was a fodder. I asked him, what do you mean by lean agile, or what is safe according to you? He couldn't answer. So do not give fodder to interviewer if you are not sure of. Do not play around words just to show that you know everything. Answer should be very precise and crisp. So whatever is been asked, be very cautious in using your words. And you have to be really, as I mentioned, you have to be very articulative in giving out your answers. Do not give out uh, uh, terminologies which you can never answer. So, and with this also, the chances of getting selected are very less. You may think that, no, I have talked about lean, I have talked about safe, I have talked about less, I have talked about Kanban, I have talked about PI planning, I have talked about so many things, or I have talked about WSJF. But if the interviewer asked you and if he is not convinced, then definitely you are, leaking your own chances. So be very thorough in what you give out to your interviewer. Last but not the least, never miss a chance to ask question to the interviewer. Whenever you are done with the interview and the interviewer asks you, do you have any questions for me? Do you want to know anything? Never miss that opportunity. Always prepare for a question, at least a question. Just try to check whether, first I would always try to do is try to understand whether this is an active hiring or a passive hiring. Means if this hiring is happening for a bench or for some project. Second thing, you may want to check the culture of the organization, culture of the project, or maybe you may want to see what they are expecting out of this role or out of this job profile, or you may want to see that what are the responsibilities that they want you to take up. So people, after joining the organization, they realize my role is not a typical Scrum Master or an Agile coach. It's a mix of a project manager, this and that. But if you really want to be sure, even before joining, this is your opportunity. Ask such questions. Whatever you have, whatever doubts you have, obviously you cannot ask what is the name of the project, which client I would be joining for. Obviously, those questions will not be answered. And ask them. Maybe you may want to ask what are you expecting out of me if I join you, where I would be in terms of hierarchy, whatever you want to check, or maybe you want to check on the JD or responsibilities, and maybe you may want to see the culture as I mentioned. So these are all the questions that you can ask, and you can know a lot about the interviewer or the organization or the program that you're going to join as. And one thing I would want to end with is never ask the interviewer, what is my feedback? As in whether I'm selected or not. If you want to ask, you can ask in a better way. What do you think? Where should I improve on? This could be a better way of asking or knowing whether how did you perform, but never ask what is the feedback. Am I selected? Never ask this question. So be very, use that opportunity wisely and ask whatever you may want to know about the interviewer, program, or organization. That's it from my end. I think we can open up for questions if you have any.
Yeah, hi Ramesh, this is Ravi here.
Yes, Ravi.
Yeah, Ramesh, I'm a bit interested to know about how would you answer for something like they just quoted like say if you brought up a question post the interview started closed his interview, and you want to say about this project manager mixed role with the scrum master. So if they say that is the expectation of the role, so they're looking for a kind of a mixed kind of a performance perform I mean both as a project manager and a scrum master, whatever you name it, like, so this is what the expectation is of, like, what do you think the best way to handle such a question? And if you're keen to take a position with that particular company, so how do you think as a scrum master to answer that particular question?
Yes. So this, I mean, this is a very generic scenario, or maybe very common scenario that most of us are facing. So whenever, I mean, they are expecting this role to be both a Scrum Master and a project manager. So the first thing why they are thinking this way could be lack of awareness. So they really do not know what is the role or responsibilities of a scrum master or a project manager. You may want to just tell the difference clearly. That could be one way. Second way is you may want to tell that upfront that these two are not the same roles. You are mixing two roles. You may want to restrict, or maybe you may want to give out that boundaries of your role, or maybe your job profile, and then try to see what the interviewer want to say, whether he is open for that idea, then he would agree. If he is not open to the idea, then right, I mean, whether you may want to proceed it or not. Instead of joining the organization and realizing it later and just regretting your decision, you may want to check upfront. And at the first level, you can understand whether this is a mixed role or a pure scrum master or an agile coach role is through JD. Read through the JD. Your JD, the company's JD will talk a lot about what they're expecting from this role. Your JD will tell you whether you want to go for this role or not, maybe whether it is aligned to you or not.
Yeah. Pretty convincing. So because there is already a JD there, and it already clearly calls out what is the kind of responsibility that you need to perform. But if you want to prove that it's some kind of something like not a responsibility of a scrum master to pick up on the project management activities and kind of educating back to that interviewer, then we need to just wait and see how it actually turns up. That's what you mentioned, right, Ramesh? and nowadays I'm also seeing some kind of roles coming up, like as an agile project manager. I really don't understand what that is like. So can probably this is also another subsequent question that come up later again. So do you support such a role, or how would you?
So you mean to say agile project manager, right?
Yeah.
Right. So as we all know that we do not have someone called as agile project manager or maybe program manager, whoever, right? We only know three accountabilities, that is scrum master, product owner, and the developers, right? These are the three accountabilities that we know of. But to run a project, right, or to run a program, you need someone who can think at that level in terms of whatever scope, budget, whatever you may want to call, right? So obviously, if they're expecting a Scrum Master to take up those responsibilities, then I would definitely not support that, because that is not something that we should be doing. Again, if that interests you, that's a different story altogether. But as a Scrum Master, I would not support that. But then you need someone who at that program level or a project level or an account level, whatever you may want to call that as, you need such person who is, I mean, not playing on the ground, but taking care of all those things. For an example, you may tell me the deliverables are should be taken up by the developers, right? Scrum Master will not take up that, but the developers will not even talk to the organization level leadership, right? So there has to be someone who is dealing with that higher layer of the organization or highest level. So for such to create or to bridge that gap, if you are bringing someone and calling them as an agile project manager, that is fine. But if you ask them to take up Scrum Master role, even that should be fine, unless and until they are doing justice to that accountability. They know that skill, they know the Scrum practices, or they know agile principles, practices. Even then that should be fine. But if they do not know that job, but and still they go ahead and claim themselves as, I pay 50% role of a project manager, 50% as Scrum Master, or a Scrum Master has been asked to take up a role of a project manager, then there is something wrong.
Yeah, I'm getting that. One last question again, Mr. So, see, just coming back to your answer, so that you said, like, it's not wise or it's not suggestible to ask for your feedback post your interview. I do agree with you, but I don't understand one of the points that you said. Like, so when you want to say what is the area that you can improve, so if you are giving a ground, that itself is giving up ground to him, right? That you are accepting that you are somewhat not up to your expectations. So that's like setting up a kind of a mark to the interview that you are not up to what is expected of, and so you're in one way you're messaging him that you wanted to still improve, kind of like. So how far you think if you can that will actually justify?
Yeah. So when I said that do not ask for the feedback, upfront feedback, whether you are selected or not, but then asking for the area of improvement. So none of us are perfect, right? Not even the interviewer would be perfect. So thinking that interviewer knows everything and we don't know anything is also not right, right? We are underestimating ourselves. So obviously, as I mentioned, not necessarily you know all the answers. And even if you have answers, I mean, not necessary that you have given all the right answers. So when we ask for areas of improvement, that means you're asking for an opportunity to improve, and not to see if you ask me as an interviewer, though if I would have asked maybe 5 or 6 questions, and even if the interviewee has given answers to maybe 3 to 4 questions right, and if the interviewee has not answered 2 questions wrong, I will not say that I'll reject this person. If he or she has performed really well in rest of the questions, then for me, I'm convinced, okay, this person knows most of the stuff. And we know that, I mean, that can be learned over a period of time, and not necessarily that everyone is perfect and will know. So there is no perfect candidate, right? Or there is no right candidate. You have to make them suit to your project needs. And no one will learn come already learned, right? So even if you have cleared the interview, and if you are asked to work in a project, even then you would be as new as someone who don't know, right? Because you don't know what that project is about, you don't know the product, or you don't know what the team dynamics is. So definitely you will have KT. So when you have that knowledge transfer, that means you don't know certain things. So that is really okay if you ask for area of improvement, so that you can prepare for your maybe your next round also, or otherwise also you can learn as a part of a self learning. So that is absolutely fine if you ask for area of improvements, not necessarily if they give you some improvement points that you are rejected.
Hi Ramya, this is Pawan here.
Hey, hi Pavan.
Yeah, I just wanted to know do we have a hierarchy for Scrum Master? Scrum Master, Senior Scrum Master, like that? Because recently I have been seeing some requirements saying that there is a requirement for Senior Scrum Master. Though like I'm working as a Scrum Master, even I'm looking for a job change, so I'm getting profiles for Senior Scrum Master. I just wanted to know do we have that things?
No. So Scrum Master is different from your job title. Scrum Master is not a job title. So the way we have lead, manager, senior manager, engagement manager, or developer, senior developer, we do not have any job title for Scrum Master. So even if he or she is a senior manager, can play a role of a Scrum Master. Scrum Master earlier was a role as per the Scrum Guide, but as per the new latest Scrum Guide, it is a accountability. So anyone with the right knowledge and with who can justify that accountability can take up Scrum Master's job. It's not a job title. It's not a designation. What you're saying is senior Scrum Master, junior Scrum Master is a designation or a job title. So even if you are at a leadership position in your organization, still you can play a Scrum Master for one team or two teams, or maybe at a program level or whatever you may want to play it. So to answer your question, no, we don't have that hierarchy.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So one more question,
Just I have one question. Just I wanted to add one thing here. If you are working in the scaled agile environment and working as a RTE, RT is also known as a chief scrum master. Sometimes people say it chief scrum master to him. So like that is a particular designation that people call it. Am I right, Ramya?
Again, I would not say that as a designation. That's again a role or a accountability. That is not a designation.
Yeah,
So
but
I
they
mean,
say chief scrum master. So
so that is what their job responsibility is, right? So when we say that we are working in a safe, we have definitely multiple Scrum teams and we have multiple Scrum Masters. So there is a need as per the safe framework. There is a need for someone who can go above this level and look at a bigger picture. So all the Scrum Masters are just focusing on their own team. At the most, the interdependencies between other Scrum teams. But there has to be someone who is looking at a bigger picture, and that is why the need of a RTE is being brought into a safe framework. But again, that is not a job title or a designation.
okay.
okay, Ramya, thank you. I have one more question. You said attending 2 days of video call interview with the Scrum Master training and looking for a job with telling Scrum Master and putting those roles and responsibilities in resumes and trying for a job. That means like you are saying it is not a good way to put only roles and responsibilities by attending only those 2 days of video
Absolutely.
conference training.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
uh, why am I saying is you have just learnt about it, right? But then you are not worked on it. So it's like you are appearing as a fresher to the role of a, maybe here when I talk about a seniority, maybe if I have to talk about a senior developer, right? So if you are going to say that I am graduated from the college and I'm going to take up this role of a senior developer, will that justify your knowledge and expertise to that role? No, right? Because you have not worked, you don't have experience on that. So just by that certification, if you're going and adding those responsibilities, saying that you have taken up that role, then definitely that will not help you. Because as I mentioned, the interview is very subjective, and there are real time scenarios that would be asked. So I mean, the chances of you clearing those would be very bleak. And
Yeah.
and your struggle will not is not to get a job. Your struggle will start after you get a job, because you don't have experience. You somehow manage to crack that interview, but what next? You don't know where to go ahead. You don't know how to approach the team and how to guide, how to do your job well. That is when your struggle starts.
Okay. Yeah, because why I asked this question is like in 2019, so I did the same thing. I have just gone through the 2 days of Scrum Master interview training, and I've started applying for a job. But I struggled a lot to clear the interview. Then what I did is I have gone through all the Scrum guide and Agile manifesto and some YouTube videos. I have studied and gone through like anything, then later, I got a chance to crack the interview. Then I have managed.
Yeah, that's what happens. I mean, when you just, I mean, this has become like a, I mean, sorry to say, but then this has become like a certification circus. I mean, it's like people are going for a certification, thinking that with this certification I'm going to get this job. And institutes are even claiming the job 100% job guarantee, but no one can guarantee you a job. That's a myth that someone is guaranteeing you a job. So certification is just a entry pass to the gate. It is not going to validate your knowledge.
Yeah, correct. I completely agree on that. Thank you.
Yes, Banu.
Yeah, so how do you, I mean, like, okay, like if you got your certification and if people like, like me, how do you go about, like, who is there to give, like, if you're not going to put your fake experience or anything, how, I mean, like, who's going to give me the start for, like, to become a Scrum Master?
Right. So, I mean, I have also done a separate video on this. I mean, how to get your first Scrum Master job. You may want to just check that video. But then to just answer you, what you can do is you can start looking out for opportunities within your organization first. If there are no opportunities within your organization, try to do some volunteering. Try to volunteer for some of Scrum Master's responsibility. For an example, if you have to ask me how did I do, I might have told you many times in many of the videos, but then just to answer you, I I mean, obviously when I started off, I was not a Scrum Master, right? I mean, I started from developer to tester to Scrum Master, now to Enterprise Agile Coach. So when I was doing or when I wanted to get into a Scrum Master back in 2016, late 2016, uh, I was searching for an opportunity within my organization, and no one, to be very frank, no one was ready to give me, though there were opportunities, because since I was doing a role of a QA manager then, everyone was I mean the managers or people, seniors were telling me, why would I let you go when you're doing your job well? We don't want to lose a good QA manager. But what I thought to myself was, by then I had an experience of almost 4 to 5 years working in an agile setup. I mean projects based on agile. So we already had a Scrum Master. So I used to shadow that Scrum Master. So I used to just tell my manager, whenever you feel that this Scrum Master is going to be on leave, or he or she is absent, please let me proxy her or him. I used to just volunteer as a Scrum Master. I used to observe her a lot, or I used to ask questions, try to understand what she is doing and why she is doing. That way, I started looking outside that project, and I looked for an agile community within the organization. and every organization has that agile community. Try to contribute your knowledge to that community, towards the organization. You may want to uh, uh, give some trainings to the freshers, or maybe if there are opportunities of working on a RFP, or maybe some project is being introduced, maybe you may want to provide your services there as a freelancer. When I say freelancer, within the organization, you may want to volunteer your services. So that way, whatever experience you gain by working as a volunteer, that you can put it as a experience and show it in your resume, but not faking a experience. That would definitely not lead you anywhere.
Right. Thank you.
Any more questions? I think we can take one last question because we are already running out of time.
So I can ask one question, like, but it is out of context that we are discussing as of now. So the question is around, like let's say if you're working as a Scrum Master in any of the team, and all like your team is now self-organized. Everyone is working on a self-organized environment, and they are following all the agile practices that you have given as a Scrum Master to them. And so now your job has been completed. You're only checking in that everything is working online on the way that you wanted. So now what will be the next step for you as a Scrum Master?
So the thing is, if you feel that your team no more needs you, then there is no place for you, right? So if your team is already doing a great job and they are self organized, and they know what they have to do, then you may want to think ahead of that project, ahead of that team. If there is a need for you to look within that program itself or a project itself as a Scrum Master or an Agile coach, you may want to look at the wider things, or else you may want to go to some other project and fix the things where there is a need for you to do so. And obviously your responsibilities are not confined to just a team or a program. Your responsibilities are are towards your organization also. So you may want to contribute. As I mentioned, there would be agile community wherein you may want to contribute your services or knowledge in whichever way you should be doing that.
Okay. Or we can also go for some scale level certification as well, right? For advanced level certification to get more knowledge, which you can further share with your team members, which may help them.
That is really
You.
up to you. So these are like Scrum or Safe. These are all frameworks, right? So
Mhm.
it's really what interests you. If you want, you may if you feel that you have worked on Scrum and you want to learn how Safe works, you may want to go with Safe. Or if you want to go for less, you may go for that as well. Depending upon whether you have the role or accountability of a Scrum Master or not.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I think
Yeah,
Vaishali had a question, right?
yeah. One question. Yeah. Usually, how many projects a Scrum Master has to play the role of a Scrum Master? Like 2, 3 projects, or on a like what are the expectations?
So there is no certain benchmark or a barometer that you have to take up these many teams or these many projects. So this is something uh, is decided or is specific to our organization. Some people feel that this also comes uh, because of lack of awareness. So what people feel is, for an example, Scrum Master is just it's not a full-time job. So when they feel this, they will start putting or adding teams under your umbrella. So that is when you will feel that, okay, I have to take care of 2 or 3 or 4 projects, or maybe teams. Or maybe some organization, what they do is they will assign one assign you one team in one project, another team in another project, just to see that you are occupied, because for them it is not a full-time job. So when this happens, It is really up to you how you want to deal with that situation. You may want to just turn down saying that, or convincing them, or raising that awareness. It is a full-time role, and you are trying to help your team, or you may want to take multiple projects or team. That is really up to you. But there is no particular barometer saying that this is the number after which you have to turn down.
Okay, yeah, thanks. One more question related to actually not as such interview, but whatever the situation I come across related to the previous question. Okay, so there is a team which is having a product, and on the product they are having projects. So there could
Okay.
be a one project and the upcoming projects, or there will be more upcomings like 3 or 4. So herein, there are the expectations of a Scrum Master. Since you know the product and the team, you could be handling all the projects upcoming. So in this scenario, where the Scrum Master reports to, means to the project manager or the PO or what? Because it is the situation wherein the role is not become crystal clear, and it is getting overburdened under the PM or the PO who is like handling the big team, like a product along with the projects.
Yeah, I think this question many have asked me. So all I want to say is we are trying to mix two things here. We are trying to mix job titles and the role. So as I mentioned, Scrum Master is not a job title, it's a role. So it's one of the roles or accountabilities within a Scrum framework. So if someone feels that reporting is also important, because you have to have your appraisals and all the organization related thing. So that is a different issue or different thing altogether. The person you are reporting to may or may not be within your Scrum team, right? Or within your project itself. So it is really up to your organization how they want to structure you. For example, my reporting manager is not at all part of my project. The reporting manager handles multiple accounts within this BU. So the person is very senior. That could be the case. But if you are trying to fit that reporting to within the accountabilities of the Scrum framework, for an example, if you asked whether should I be reporting to a product owner, how come a product owner becomes your reportee? He is also a becomes your reporting manager. He is also another accountability like yours in a Scrum framework. So if that person is like very senior in the organization, and he's on the organization graph or hierarchy, he's senior to you, and he happens to be in that project, then that could be justified. But just because he's not senior, he is as experienced or maybe 1 or 2 years experience than you, but since he is part of your project and he knows everything, you both have knowledge, and hence you are reporting to product owner, then that is not a right thing.
Yeah, getting you. Thanks.
Okay, I think we are already 12
Yeah,
minutes.
sorry for pausing you. One very brief question. We did not
Yeah.
touch anything about the agile coach part. A brief note on how you would like to differentiate with the Scrum Master and what is it that
Yeah.
we need to. Yeah.
So whatever the points that I have covered is applicable to Agile coach also. When we say Agile coach, the perspective becomes a bit different. Agile coach can also be told as a team level coach, or a Scrum Master is also an Agile coach. That if you look at things that way, at a team level. But when we talk about an Agile coach's role, or maybe the responsibility, he or she is the person who is framework agnostic. He or she is not dealing with any particular framework, or he or she is not favoring any one particular framework. It is above the framework. So the person who coaches about Agile is is called as Agile coach. So basically, Agile coach is coaching you on Agile principles, values, practices, delivery, etc. So that person can fit into any of the frameworks, not specifically to a Scrum framework. So that is the reason why we did not cover anything specific to, a slide dedicated to Agile coach. All those, slides that we talked about is applicable for Agile coach as well. If he is dealing with the program or a team which is working on which chose Scrum as their framework.
Okay. This would require a bit deeper discussion, but it's not the forum time now. But
Yeah,
thanks for anyways
that's
giving a very quick synopsis. Yeah.
all right. Vivek, you would like to add anything from your end? Would you like to cover anything that I have missed?
Uh, no, Ramya, I guess you have covered it very much well. Just one thing I wanted to add is like you covered on the manifesto and the Scrum Guide part. Also, one thing is that we tend to ignore as we go for any interviews is the what we would say is the psychology part. I mean, the Scrum Master needs to have that aspect of psychology where we interact or we have an communication within the team or team members. So it's more of not only following a process or just sticking with process in terms of what Scrum suggests or what Agile suggests. The also other important aspect of is that how we do our interactions or how we have people interaction. So that is one thing. It we need to. It's not that we will get or we will train on that part from somewhere or attending some sessions or some it's just a self learning for individuals, which is very important for Scrum Master as an agile coach to understand how we interact or how to communicate with people or to take up those discussions. So that is again all part of a psychology where we have, or it's again a day to day, or it's on a kind of a job where we learn and where we improve ourselves. So that is one thing I think as a Scrum Master we should always keep a eye on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's
that's
so.
true, Vivek. Yep.
yes, that's absolutely true. The psychological safety what Vivek talked about, that is something that, as you mentioned, cannot be learned by reading somewhere or just doing some certification or courses. That is something you have to develop that skill. Not necessarily that this skill is inbuilt in everyone. That is something we have to develop over a period of time, and that you will realize this part. Now if you are at a beginner level doing a Scrum Master or an Agile coach, you may feel, how is it important, or why is it important, how is it even related? But trust me, when you uh, kind of have or gain some experience in working as a Scrum Master or an Agile coach, you will understand it's important, because you are dealing with people and relationships day in and day out. Obviously, when I talk about relationship, you are working with team members, you are establishing a relationship with them. And when you deal with people and when you work towards establishing a relationship, it becomes very important that you have that psychological safety uh, for you and for your team as well. So that's again a very beautiful topic that I think we can take it up separately. But having said that, that's a really key skill to have for any Scrum Master or an Agile coach. Thank you, Vivek, for touch basing on that point. All right, I think we have taken a lot of time. I knew that this topic is really very important, subjective. That's the reason why I kept a minimal presentation. I wanted to just have a conversation. And thank you everyone for joining this session. And if you still feel that there are certain things that you want want to still know from us or learn, or maybe obviously all of us are learning, and if you want to add, or maybe if you want to share anything, you definitely can reach out to us on LinkedIn. And we do keep posting stuff on LinkedIn as well. We try to share our knowledge and learn from everyone. So please be in touch with us on LinkedIn as well, and please do subscribe to our channel as well. On that note, thank you everyone for joining today, and have a nice weekend.
Thank you. Thank you for the nice
Thank you.
session.
Thank you, Rama. Thank you for the session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
It was very interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah. By the way, Vivek, your name is Vivek or Ramya Shastri? Actually, this was should be hosted by Ramya
Yeah.
Shastri, right?
Yes. So Vivek is my husband. We both are agile coaches, and we both of us do it together. But we have bought a license of Teams using Vivek's account, or Vivek's name. That is the reason why you are
Okay,
seeing
okay.
it.
Okay. It was,
Yes.
just sort of confirming
Yeah.
with you. Okay. Thank you, Ramya. Okay. Thank you, Vivek. Yeah.